Hey everybody, David Burns, and I am answering your questions today from the green chair. By the way, this is a green chair. Look at this big green chair on wheels, and I love being able to move around in the shop. Green chair, Friday answer day, live, unedited, and I was filming this earlier, and then I got a call. Somebody invited me to speak at a state conference. So I had to start over filming again. Anyway, here we go. Let's get right into the questions today. Thanks for watching, guys. Richard says, hey, Dave, what happens to that queen that doesn't get mated? Does she stay in the hive or do the bees put her out? If she stays in the hive, do they stop the colony? Oh, does she stop the colony from accepting a mated queen? Very good question, Richard. I tell you, it goes any way possible. It really does. Occasionally, I have seen a queen that didn't get mated and she just stays in there and they never raise another one. There's no eggs. They can't do anything. And the hive will eventually perish because you need this replacement of workforce, new eggs all the time. But usually the way it's supposed to happen is they're supposed to always have a good queen in there. So they will kill a failing queen, a weak queen, a virgin queen. They'll get rid of them. But in their case, I guess they knew that there's no eggs. What can they do, right? So they just had to do nothing. That's why the beekeeper has to be ready always to replace a failing queen, or when the hive fails, to raise their replacement queen. That's not uncommon at all. And that's why beekeepers shine, because we can inspect our colonies every 2 weeks. And if we see a failing queen, we're Johnny on the spot. We get right in there, get a mated queen in there. And that's why you need to learn to raise your own queens. Something I've been talking about on my live streams for the last 2 weeks, helping you guys learn how to raise your own queens. I'm excited about those videos that I've produced in my live streams last 2 times. I'll leave a link right here to that video and in the description below. Last night, when I was talking about how to raise your own queens on my live stream. Live stream is every Thursday night, 7 p.m. We always have a big crowd of beekeepers. Now, Tom is the next question that says, I understand the hows and whys. My question is, about the Demaree method. Some say wait until the queen cells appear. Others say to preempt the queen cells by doing it before queen cells appear. I like doing it before I have queen cells. It pushes you a little bit more and it limits you a little bit if you already have queen cells. But if you don't have the queen cells yet and you do the Demaree method for swarm control, it is a great thing. I'll leave a link to my Demaree method of swarm control in my description of this video. And it's me writing backwards on a clear board, walking you through every step of this very established method of swarm control, the Demaree method. All right, next question from Solitude Acres. That sounds really good, doesn't it? Solitude Acres. Who doesn't want more solitude in their life? Oh. Does the starter hive, this is about queen rearing, does the starter hive need to be queenless or just have a queen in the bottom box with a queen excluder on it so we can't get in the top box where the grafts are? Okay, very good question. So be sure and watch my queen rearing video, part 1. And I describe this in great detail. But to answer your question, the starter hive cannot have any brood of any 3 stages, no eggs, no larvae, no pupae. That starter hive does not have a queen in it. All you have is food and resources, and you have a lot of nurse bees. They're mostly 95% nurse bees between the ages of 6 and 12 days old. They have the ability through their hypopharyngeal gland to produce royal jelly. And so that's what feeds the starter cells, right? They feed the starter cells. So you don't want any competition in there. If you had other brood, they would feed royal jelly to that brood, young larvae. So yeah, that answers your question. You're kind of meshing together the starter hive and the finishing hive. After 24 hours, your grafts are in that starter hive for 24 hours. And after that, they go into the finishing hive, which is 2 deeps divided by a queen excluder, queen below, grafts above, all the way up to day 13, 3 days before they emerge, okay? All right, good question. Jay, I have nukes coming on May 1st and June 1st. Is that too late to start? Brand new beekeeper doing class in May and raising in mentor's apiary during class. Don't know what that means, but no, most people in the U.S. can't really produce quality nukes. That's 5 frames of bees and a queen that's out laying and has been for quite some time. Like I don't really have my nukes available. Do I have them available in May? I think we get them ready by the middle of May, but June the 1st is not too late for a nuke because it's really, half of a hive. So it's already established pretty good. If it was a package on June the 1st, that's really late, but not so much for a nuke. You'll be fine. Did you say where you lived? It kind of depends on where you live, but it sounds like you're okay. All right. How does someone become an EAS beekeeper? EAS stands for Eastern Apicultural Society of North America, a long time, very prestigious society that has been raising and testing master beekeepers for a very long time. I am an EAS certified master beekeeper, by the way. And I think what you mean is how does someone become an EAS certified master beekeeper? And that is by spending a lot of time studying on your own, because this program does not have a study track, an academic track that you follow. Instead, you send in your application to be tested. And there's 4 levels of tests. There's a lab test, a laboratory where you look at stuff in microscopes, you identify things on tables and pictures and live examples, specimens, and you're tested on your ability to identify things in the lab. And then you're tested in front of an oral panel of master beekeepers where they fire questions at you and you answer the questions on a limited times. So you got the orals, you got the lab test, you have a written test, and then you have a field test. I am the field team leader organizing the field test of EAS Master Beekeeper Certification. And Dorinda Preby is the team leader of the oral test. I am also one who does oral testing of new candidates. And Dr. David Peck is the academic advisor that puts together the written test and the lab test. So the 4 of us organize the test every year, and we test about 30 plus candidates from all around the world. And it's a very prestigious, very difficult, very challenging. I think last year, for example, we had almost 30, I forget the number, high 20s of candidates. And I think only 5 achieved the certification, and some of those were being retested or tested because they may have failed the test last year or something. But you just have to apply, and then you have to meet a criteria. You have to have somebody that recommends you, that knows you, that has seen you working bees in a field, they know that you're advanced enough in beekeeping to be able to apply for this certification test. And also you have to have kept bees for a minimum of at least 5 years. And then you can certainly send in your application. And then you show up at EAS, the conference, once a year. This August is in New Jersey. And then you're tested and to see how well you do. If you take the 4 tests and you pass, let's say, for example, you pass your written test and you passed your field test, then all you have, but you failed your oral test and your lab test, well, then you just have to come back and take the test the next year, the 2 that you didn't pass. Whatever you didn't pass, well, let's put it this way. Whatever you did pass, you don't have to retake those. You have 5 years to complete the 4 tests, to pass the 4 tests. So if you keep failing one, you've got 5 years to keep trying. That answer your question? All right. Next question. Bees were light in the fall, both in numbers and in resources. 1 out of 3 perished in late December, beginning of January during the first extreme cold spell. The night before the second extreme cold spell, I bought the other 2 hives. Oh, I brought the other 2 hives into my living room. Oh my gosh. Other than feeding, they're consuming more. And a $70 gazebo with mosquito netting. Any recommendations? So, okay, R squared. So you brought your hive into your house, into your living room. Wow, that's a conversational piece. Hey, you want to come over and have supper with us? And afterwards, we'll hang out in my living room next to my beehive and we'll have a great time. I mean, what a conversation piece. And then it sounds like you built a gazebo around the hive for $70 with mosquito netting so they don't come out of the hive at night and get into your bed with you. That is astounding. That is incredible. I love it. I love it. I'll have to make that the thumbnail. Beehive in the living room. That's a great thumbnail. Oh, any recommendations? I really think that this is not a common practice. However, let me just say this. There are a lot of reasons that really this might work. Did I say this is raw and unedited? I got to wet my whistle. There's a lot of reasons this may really help your bees. Obviously, they can avoid being frozen to death. And this winter has been, I think really it's been the worst winter I've ever seen since I've been keeping bees. I don't know if that's accurate or true. And it might be because I'm getting older and it feels colder. But I really think it's been harder on bees than I've ever seen it because we just haven't received a break. Where I live in central Illinois, it hasn't been a break. Usually there's, okay, it's cold, 2 days, and then it warms up to 30 or 32, gets above freezing, and, you know, bees kind of stretch their wings. But this time, man, they're hunkered down, deeply, tightly clustered. It's tough. So in the living room, that could work. Yeah. I think it poses some concerns, some issues, like, are the bees so warm? And I think you hit on it, that you said that they're eating more. Because they're warmer, they're going to lay more brood, you're going to have to feed them more, which creates more moisture, more need to defecate outside the hive. So there are pros and cons, and which one wins is going to be determined by what the bees look like by you in the spring when you open them up. Yeah, I think R squared, that you might be onto something. Yeah, I think that is probably the fastest way to get rid of anybody else that lives with you. I mean, that's almost like bringing a snake in the house as a pet. Oh, sorry if I offended all of you that have snakes as a pet. That would be difficult for me. Not that I have a great fear of snakes, but I have a healthy respect for snakes, and I never can tell the difference between a venomous snake and one that's not, so they're all venomous to me. So with a beehive in the house, you've got to keep me posted on how this works. I think it would work better if you could turn your thermostat lower. And of course, then you're going to freeze. But if you could really, you know, they keep bees in buildings that are 40 degrees Fahrenheit. So if you could turn your temperature down, your bees would be less active. There you go. What else can I recommend? I don't know. I've never tried it. And I have no recommendations other than it might be a little bit too warm for them. Maybe shut the vents off in the living room, the heat vents. Can you block off the living room from the doors so that you can keep it 50 degrees or 40? I mean, that would be cool. Yeah, that's all I got for you. That's outstanding. What's the best temperature to get a package of bees? What's the best temperature to get a package of bees? Ooh, that's a very good question because, you know, it'd be easy to say 80 degrees because that's where bees love to fly and do their stuff. But on the other hand, they're flying and they're very active. I sell packages. We have packages for sale even today. If you want to come pick packages up at the end of April from us, I'll leave a link in the description and all that. But my ideal temperature to hand out packages to beekeepers is probably around 50 degrees because they'll sit inside their little package like really nice and polite. And the queen is in a separate cage, and they're surrounded the cage, and they're just asleep and huddled in there, nicely quiet. By the way, bees do sleep, you know. They don't sleep like we do. They sleep about the same amount of time, 5 to 8 hours, but we conk out and have to set an alarm clock to wake up. Bees don't sleep straight through like that. They more or less, they kind of nap, but all that nap adds up to about 5 to 8 hours a day. Maybe I should take more naps. But I would say somewhere between 50 and 60 degrees is the ideal temperature. But now the part that the beekeeper needs to think about is if you get a package and then it's dropping down into the 40s and 30s and below Fahrenheit, that's going to be an issue because your bees they don't have, if you're a new beekeeper, they don't have drawn comb, they don't have any resources. And if you get your bees, let's say in Illinois in March, and it's snowing and it's cold, your package of bees before they were packaged were usually in the south, and they were foraging in hot weather on flowers. And then you bring them to the north in a package where it's still snow-covered ground, cold at nights, nothing in the hive to eat, and they can abscond or perish or die. So if you get your bees too early, that's an issue. Okay. Hi, David. Can you please explain a bit what to do after Demaree method with all the bees, how to split them after the honey flow? Yes, watch my video. Please, I'll leave a link in the description of the Demaree method of how to deal with all that. So please watch that video. Hey, Richard, what happens to the queen that doesn't get mated? We answered that. It's in here twice. Oh, let me see. Is it in here twice? Indeed it is. All right. That is all the questions that I have for answers today. Be sure and join me for my live stream every Thursday night, 7 p.m., because that will help you understand the live stream and how to submit questions. And the ones that don't get answered because of time restraints, I try to answer the next day. Oh, and be sure and subscribe to my channel. I appreciate all of you for subscribing. Bobblehead David. This is actually me in a smaller version of me. And his job is to ask you guys to please subscribe to my channel here. Appreciate it so much. By the way, if you want to know about my queen rearing live streams, I will leave them in the description below here. Or you can watch the last one that I made last night right over here. And it's all about how to raise your own queens. Thanks for watching, guys. See you over there.